Hi there, I'm Frank Cabri, Vice President of Marketing at Centrify, and welcome to another Centrify Chalk Talk. Today I'm joined by Corey Williams, our Director of Product Management, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the Centrify Suite Express Edition. So this is a new offering from Centrify, and Corey, maybe we can start with just a little bit about what is the offering and what does it mean for customers?
Thanks, Frank. Well, we've been real excited about this offering for a while now. Up to this point, we've offered a suite of products to help you secure your non-Microsoft systems using Active Directory, including Linux and Unix and Macs. Allows you to control who has access to those machines, what they're allowed to do on those machines, what they've done on the sessions that they've had, and be able to control all that centrally in Active Directory. With this new offering, Centrify Suite Express, what we've done is taken some of the essential pieces of the Centrify Suite that allow a system to join Active Directory in a trusted way and to authenticate users using their Active Directory identity. And we're actually going to make this available for free. We want a lot of people very quickly to benefit from being able to leverage just single identity within Active Directory. And we'll see how it gets picked up, but we're pretty excited about this offering.
So it's essentially is it an entry-level offering then? Would you characterize it that way, or it's basically the same technology you're saying as what is in the core suite offerings, but made available at no charge for the customer?
So what we've done is we've taken the core technology that's already deployed on hundreds of thousands of systems across over 1,500 different customers, over a third of the Fortune 50. It's the same technology that they're using to manage their Unix and Linux systems today. And we're making that core piece available. And we think that's a much better option, which we'll get into a little bit later, as compared to some of the other sort of free alternatives you have of building something from open source or using what's built into the OS. Yeah. And so we think that by taking some of our core capability, making that available for free, people will be able to leverage the experience of all these hundreds and thousands of customers that are using this.
So I can let my systems, my Unix, my heterogeneous systems join Active Directory. It's got that basic capability to join in Active Directory. If I want to add other more rich features from Centrify, I can easily upgrade that on top of my Express and build out as my business dictates. Is that basically a model for how customers would deploy?
Yeah, and actually, so let's talk about a little bit what's in the suite, right? So we call it a suite. It's got two major pieces of functionality. The first one that we've been referring to is DirectControl Express as part of this Centrify Suite Express offering. DirectControl Express allows you to join a Unix or Linux or Mac system to Active Directory directly without using any third-party tier software, without putting anything on the domain controllers, without any additional infrastructure that you need to offer. You can join Active Directory and allow users to authenticate to those systems. But what we found is that, and you asked about deployment, what we found is that quite a few customers will struggle with trying to figure out how to get the software on each box and getting access to the boxes if they're remote. So we're actually going to make available the deployment features of our DirectManage product. So we'll call that DirectManage Express. And it's a great tool that we're excited to show people. And it'll allow you to reach out and discover the systems on your network, the Unix, Linux, and Mac systems on your network. It'll actually check those systems to make sure that they understand how to talk to Active Directory. And there's several things like the patch level of the OS or the network configuration, the availability of DNS, a bunch of trivia that needs to be verified or validated before you can be assured of successfully connecting to Active Directory. So we'll reach out to all those systems, run that check, give you a central report, even creates a to-do list of what you need to do on the systems that you want to join.
So you've automated that entire process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And once we know that you are ready to join, we can actually download the appropriate software packages. As you know, and as our audience should know, we support over 200 flavors of Linux and Mac and Unix, and so what we want to be able to do is download just the bits you need, not every platform that you'll never use.
Right.
And so we automatically grab the right bits, and then what we can do is then take those validated systems and the bits that we've downloaded and push the software to it and join the system to Active Directory automatically. It's a great free feature to quickly get a handful of computers up and running with Active Directory integration.
So since a picture is worth 1,000 words, maybe is it worth showing a little architectural diagram of how this gets deployed and what it looks like in a network environment?
Sure. So let me first start by drawing a few systems up here on the board. We'll have a Linux system, And we might have several of those, or a Mac, or a Unix system. These are all sort of the typical systems you might find in a data center, or you might find across an organization that you want to integrate in with Active Directory. So let's go ahead and draw Active Directory in here. We just view this as a triangle here. The fact is that Active Directory might actually be a very complex environment that has many domain controllers, and it has replication and sites and services and a global catalog. The robustness around Active Directory actually makes it one of the more complex things to handle. And so one of the things that I'll show is the fact that we're able to handle all that native complexity. And that's one of the benefits of using our product. So what I was describing before is that we actually have a tool which we call DirectManage Express. And what it does is it actually goes out onto the network and it discovers all of these systems. And it actually creates a list in here of all those systems, what platform they are, how to get access to them, and so forth. And we use that as a basis for being able to reach out and determine the health or the valid ability for these systems to then connect to Active Directory.
So just tell me what systems I have in my environment and tell me whether they're ready to participate in AD is basically what that tool does.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so the nice thing about this is it actually stores all that information in a database. And so we actually have a persistent list of all those systems. I even have the ability to do some interesting things like right-click on a system and start an SSH session or a PuTTY session or a VNC to the box. So it becomes a nice place for me to get access to all those systems if I need to do something locally on the box as well. So we take that list of systems. We actually have a utility that's native to each of the individual platforms that we can push out, run that check, and it will check the network, DNS, Active Directory, ports, all that sort of stuff. There's like 50 different checks that we do to ensure that you'll successfully be able to join that system to Active Directory. And this is this is an additional difficulty you have with the free or built-in products, is that they just assume that you know all those pieces of trivia and to figure them out before you actually try to use them. And we provide a utility that ensures you're going to be successful before you even try. So it just allows it to be that much easier, that much quicker to be able to get your systems joined to Active Directory.
Makes sense, yep.
So then we're able to, once we've got that list of systems that is ready to be joined, we can actually reach out to the Centrify cloud and grab the bits that we need to join those particular systems to Active Directory.
So it'll go find the version of Red Hat, for example, the version of HPUX, whatever it might be, and push the appropriate version down to that.
Correct. And we actually QA all 200, QA quality assure, test, rigorously, make sure that those systems can actually use our product. And so you're able to pull down the version that we've tested against your specific version of the OS.
So Corey, it sounds like you've really thought out what's required to successfully let an IT person, take these non-Windows systems and join them into Active Directory. What are some of the use cases or scenarios that an organization might deploy this architecture that you've drawn here?
Sure. Well, with Express, it really does three things. The first thing is that we make it really easy, as I've described, to get these systems joined to Active Directory. Once they're joined, I get to do two main things. The first one is that it allows me to authenticate users here at these systems to Active Directory. And I get to use the same username and password that I already use on my Windows system. In fact, I can even use the familiar forms like my email address, corey.williams@centrify.com, or I can use my display name, Corey space Williams, or I can use my Unix name, which might be co-Willia. All of those forms are stored in Active Directory, and we allow you the flexibility of using just the form you want. So it makes it very easy for you to start to let people use their Active Directory identity to access these non-Windows systems. Okay. Second thing is that it allows you to get single sign-on from another box. So typically, I'm not logging on to the console for each of these systems. I might be on the Mac. But for Unix and Linux systems, typically what I'm doing is I'm using PuTTY on Windows to get a remote session, or I'm using SSH from another Linux box to the box that I'm trying to access. And with our system, we can actually use Kerberos that's built into Windows or built into one of the other systems that you're using to remotely access the system you want to administer. and allow you to get direct access to that box using your Active Directory Kerberos credentials. And for those who aren't familiar with what that is, it's very much like your Outlook environment. So you go log into Windows, you open Outlook, it just knows who you are, lets you right into your mailbox. The way it does that underneath the covers is through Kerberos. And we support that same user experience in trying to administer those boxes.
Good, good. You mentioned built-in. What built-in capabilities do the system vendors have to let those environments or those operating systems participate in Active Directory?
It's a great question, and to be honest, there's a kind of a spectrum of options that they provide. They range from just saying that, hey, we can treat a single domain controller in Active Directory as an LDAP directory and allow you to connect and authenticate users that way. There's some problems with that because it's different how you configure it on each different system. You can't do it centrally. It also requires you to have that single domain controller always available. And so it's not a very robust way. And it doesn't allow you that Kerberos single sign-on. Mac, a lot of people are familiar with the Apple plugin for Active Directory. And it does an okay job. It allows you to join a little bit more robustly so that you can use Kerberos in the environment. But it doesn't work well in real complex Active Directory environments. And so I'll come back to that again. Complex Active Directory environments include what are called sites and services. It allows you to automatically find a domain controller, fail over if it fails, get the nearest one and connect to it. All of those features are built into Active Directory, and we just support that out of the box. We don't ask you to specify which domain controllers you want to access.
I see, okay.
And all of that is something that you need to have robust integration like you do with Windows, where it just works. We also have an offline cache, so that if for some reason the network becomes unavailable, we can, to authenticate users against Active Directory, we can actually authenticate the users against the local cache. And that slows it lowers the traffic on the network, speeds up access to the systems, and we think it's a nice, robust feature as well.
So Corey, you did a great job explaining the differences between the Express solution and what's offered in the baseline functionality from the operating system vendors. What about between Express and some of the other versions of the suite that Centrify has? What might be some of the considerations that I'd want to think about on whether I go with Express or, say, your standard or Enterprise Edition product?
Sure. It's a great question. We do think that the Express product for some people is going to be enough, and they'll be happy with the ability to take a few Linux or Macs and join them into Active Directory, and we would encourage people to use it for that purpose. And they get to use the same technology that's built into all those other suites. But we do think that for some customers that may not be enough. For example, the ability to quickly join a system to Active Directory might be the right technology, but being able to ensure that it's supported over a long term might be a consideration that they want to, or a concern that they want to have addressed. And so we offer a couple of things. One is we offer the ability for users of the Express product to come and ask questions of each other. So we have a community that we're putting on our website that allows them to come and post questions and see answers and get access to documents and demonstrations and training. Beyond that, we in our experience with all these hundreds of customers and thousands of customers that we've worked with, we found additional use cases that they've asked for. And so, for instance, we in our upgraded suite editions offer features like access control, the ability to control not only how a person accesses it via their Active Directory credentials, but also whether or not they're allowed to access that system. We have the ability to control group policy on these non-Windows systems, so we can automatically and centrally configure which systems are configured in what way. Things like a firewall or the SSH policy or FTP or whatever it might be. Beyond that, we can actually control authorization. So who can access the box is sort of a gross way of doing that. But once they're on the box, how do you control what they're allowed to do? With what privilege level? So we actually have a super user privilege management solution that is part of one of our suites that allows you to control roles and rights on specific systems.
So just be very granular on what commands and what things they can do basically on that system.
Right, so they no longer need to SU to root. They can actually execute the commands they need to with the right privilege level, but not have full access to the full keys to the kingdom, which is a real concern for folks who are trying to comply with regulatory policy or with internal security policy. And we even have a solution that allows you to capture, kind of like a DVR, the user sessions as they're performing them on the box and make them replayable and searchable. And we've had a lot of interest from people who are trying to comply with, let's say, PCI regulations, which the payment card industry regulations, which say that you need to be able to control not only who has access to the box and that they log on as themselves, what they can do. You also have to recreate anything that they did on the box so that it can be searchable for future forensic use or for training use. And so we offer a complete set of solutions above and beyond the authentication and single sign-on to Active Directory for those customers who think it's something they're going to need in their environment.
So if I'm an organization, I can start with a rich capability within Express, join my systems to Active Directory, but then what you're saying is I've got the ability to layer on these optional upgrades to that with the authorize and privilege management capability, with the auditing capability, and that all leverage basically that underlying integration with Active Directory that I started with Express.
That's certainly an upgrade path. What I would encourage people to do is to take a look at the differences between these and make a decision initially. Do I need access control? Do I need some authorization capability on these systems? Do I want to centrally control and report these systems? I can deploy my software centrally. We have additional console capabilities, DirectManage capabilities that allow you to report across all those systems in terms of who has access to the box, to define groups of computers so that you can control access, even to allow different identities to be used locally on these systems but mapped to an individual user in Active Directory. So if any of those features are necessary, you may want to consider using one of our licensed suite editions as opposed to Express. But certainly you can start with Express. If that solves the use case that you're looking for, we believe it's some of the best technology around in order to solve single sign-on and authentication to Active Directory.
Perfect, Corey. That's great chalk talk. Thanks for the overview. So if you're interested in more information on Express, just visit centrify.com/express. There's a lot of resources, community Q&A and forums, and you can download the software at that location as well. On behalf of Corey Williams and myself, thanks again for joining us for this Chalk Talk.